She sold her best friend a car. He sued her for $14,200. She sold her best friend a car. 3 months later, she was standing in a courtroom being sued for $14,000. They had been close for nearly a decade, the kind of friendship built on late-night phone calls, shared holidays, and the unspoken trust that comes from knowing someone through their worst moments. The seller had listed a 2009 Honda Accord on a private Facebook marketplace group in early spring, asking $6,800. Before a stranger could respond, her friend messaged her directly. He had just lost his primary vehicle to a transmission failure and needed something reliable to get to work. She told him it ran well, that she'd kept up with the oil changes, that it had one small issue with the air conditioning she'd never gotten around to fixing. He bought it without a test drive. 2 weeks later, the engine seized. The buyer filed suit in civil court seeking $14,200, the original $6,800 purchase price, $4,900 in repair estimates from 2 separate mechanics, and $1,500 in lost wages from the weeks he missed work while without transportation. He arrived at the courthouse with a thick folder and visible anger. His testimony was measured but wounded. He described sending her voice messages the day the car died, asking what she knew. He described her going quiet. He said the friendship, 10 years of it, ended not when the engine failed, but when she stopped responding. His mechanics testified that the engine damage was consistent with chronic oil starvation, the kind that builds over months, possibly years. One mechanic stated plainly that this was not a sudden failure. Someone, he said, had been neglecting this car for a long time. She sat across the courtroom looking composed but tired. Her attorney argued that the vehicle was sold as is, a term she had used explicitly in the Facebook listing, which was still archived and submitted into evidence. She had disclosed the air conditioning issue. She had not represented the car as perfect. Private sales, her attorney reminded the court, are not warranties. People buy used cars understanding they are buying someone else's problem. And that is the entire reason the price was $6,800 and not $16,000. She had not lied. She had sold a car. She maintained, quietly and without theatrics, that she felt terrible about what happened. But that feeling terrible was not the same as being liable. The courtroom shifted on a Tuesday afternoon when the buyer's attorney submitted a photograph. It had been retrieved from the seller's own social media, posted 14 months before the sale. In it, she stood beside the Accord at an oil change shop, caption reading, "Finally got around to this after a while." The timestamp on the post was cross-referenced with the car's service history, which the buyer had subpoenaed from the dealership's records. The last documented oil change before that post had been 19 months prior. Taken together with the mechanic's testimony about oil starvation, the evidence painted a picture not of concealment, but of a pattern. A car that had been chronically undermaintained, sold to someone who trusted the seller too much to ask the right questions. The judge took 20 minutes to deliberate. She ruled in favor of the plaintiff, but not in the amount requested. The lost wages claim was denied. The connection to the seller's actions was too speculative. The repair costs were partially awarded at $3,100, reflecting the midpoint between the two estimates. The purchase price refund was granted in full. The final judgment came to $9,900. The judge noted in her ruling that the as is clause, while legally meaningful, does not protect a seller who has material knowledge of a vehicle's condition, and that the service history, combined with the social media post, suggested the seller had reason to know the car was at risk. She had not lied outright, but she had sold a fragile thing to someone who trusted her, without saying how fragile it was. The seller paid the judgment within 60 days. There was no appeal. The buyer used the settlement to purchase a different vehicle from a dealership with a warranty. The two have not spoken since. Mutual friends, by most accounts, quietly chose sides. The seller eventually removed her Facebook marketplace listings entirely. Whether she believed the verdict was fair depended on who you asked and which version of the story they'd heard first. Here is the question the case left behind. If you sell something to a stranger, you disclose what you know. But if you sell something to a friend, someone who trusts you enough to skip the inspection, do you owe them more than the legal minimum? And if the answer is yes, who exactly gets to decide where that line is?